Hi friends, this morning I'm playing with a little mistletoe wreath I thought might be fun. And typically what I do is I just grab a lid from my kitchen and I'm just going to use that to kind of sketch out the circle. So I'll do it very lightly. Just sketch that out. And I'm using a 140-pound cold press paper. This particular one happens to be from MEEDEN and it's on a block, which means it's just sealed on all edges. You can absolutely use either your little Strathmore cards. I love these. I used to sell my cards on Amazon for many years, and I just love these cards. They also, I'll put the link below for you. They also come with this really cool little edge, but feel free to also use your Artisto pads. These are fabulous. As you know, I love these. They're also a 140-pound cold press. I label them all, so this is my fall 2024, and they're great to refer back to. They're even perforated, so if you did want to pull one out and gift one, you can do that. But I am using my MEEDEN because that's what I had sitting here. And then I'll use my Paul Rubens MeiLang palette. I'm just going to give those a quick light misting. You don't have to get them real wet. Just that little misting to get them activated is plenty. And let's see, I think today I'll use my 8 round. This is my set. I'm not sure if there's any more of these left, but I'll put the link for them down below. These Degatos that I'm always sharing are a really great beginner set. You get 10, they're under $20. I've been using these for a year and a half, and as long as you take care of your brushes, you know, they'll last you a long time. But any 8 round, I'm sure will be just fine. And have your 2 containers of water. Let me grab mine really quickly. Here we go. And I've got my paper towel. You want to make sure you have a wash and a rinse water because watercolors are so transparent. You want to make sure when you're switching colors that your brush is really nice and clean. I use this MEEDEN one just because it's 2 wells and I have spilled way too many plastic cups of water, so I do like to use the ceramic one. And my little MEEDEN palette you guys always ask me about, just this little daisy pie. I like it because I can hold it in my hand. All right, I'm going to start, let's see, the colors I'm going to use, let's kind of do that. I'll play with those over here. I think I kind of have my go-to greens. I really like the light green in the MeiLang palette, tree green. So I'll probably use that. And then I also like the olive green and the sap green. So this is the sap green. It's just a little bit darker than that light green. I really like those two together. And of course some olive green. I love these greens. They're so pretty. And then I'm going to do some little pink or red berries. So I think I'll use, let's see here. I really like this deep, rich color. So I'm going to use that one. If you have this, I know a lot of you have this MeiLang palette. It's right next to that rose pink, but look how pretty it is. And I can do a couple variations of that, so I can add more water and get some lighter berries. Yeah, that's pretty. I like that. So I'll probably use all three of those. I might throw in a little bit of brown, maybe my Van Dyke brown, and make some branches kind of in there. And actually that's what I'll start with. Let's get a little bit of that lighter brown. This is the Sienna, which is a really pretty, it has some yellowish in it. Okay, so that'll basically be my palette. I'm just gonna play here a minute with some pink. Even that pink, rose pink is pretty. As you know, that's my favorite color. All right, so I'm going to start with some of that brown I've got here in my palette. And go in. I always start with a lighter value of paint, meaning probably 20%, 25% pigment, 75% water. And then regardless of how much I have in here, I just tap it off. And I'll go in and just start drawing some little branches here using the very tip of my brush. So I'm just going to rest my side of my palm of my hand on my paper here and light pressure and use the tip. To use the tip, you really should keep your brush up and down, vertical. That way you're just using the tip of your brush. I have mine tilted a little bit just so you can see. And I'm just going to kind of swirl it around here. I can always add in some more. Just creating some of these little branch type things. And then I'm going to wash and rinse my brush, tap it off, and go ahead and grab some of that green that I showed you here in my palette, those greens. I want to have them ready so they're just ready to go. So that is that sap green. I'm going to put some of that tree green right here. These are just my go-to greens. You probably have your favorite greens as well. And then I'll put a little bit of the olive green over here. There's even this really pretty emeraldy green. I don't use it a lot, but it is rather nice. All right, and I'm going to go in first with my lighter greens and going to start making these little holly leaves. So point, press, and while that's wet, I'm just gonna go in and kind of add in some darker colors there. Just going around, switching out my green a little bit. So I'm using the point press as well as the tip of my brush. Point press, point press, point press, maybe some smaller ones. And then I just tap in there with some of that darker green, just for some interest. Look how pretty. Isn't that fun how it spreads like that? I love that about watercolors. That's my favorite thing. I'm gonna grab a little bit more of that light green here. Let me just move this over so you can see my palette here. There we go. And just keep going around. And creating these little fun holiday leaves. Kind of doing a point press and also a little swirl, if you want to call it that. And then just tapping in with some of that dark. You could even tap in with some brown. Put a little bit more of that over here. play with your greens and just kind of come up with the greens that you love. I'm sure we all have our favorite greens. Like that. But isn't that pretty how they kind of blend? Point press, point press. And I'm making the tips of those just a little bit rounded at the edges. Like that. Go in with some of that dark green. That emeraldy green is really pretty in there. Looks very festive for the holidays. I'm just going to keep going around. Point, press, swirl. Like that. And maybe some lighter value ones. Smaller ones. Kind of play with the shapes. Just for interest, you can add little ones like that. Add in some dark green. There we go. So I feel like I have enough there. You could even, for some real fun, I love also adding in a little bit of brown to the base of my leaves. I love how it mixes with the green and kind of brings that earthy little touch. I do that quite often in my florals. And now I'm going to add in some of those berries. So I have this one really pretty color. I really like that. Get some of that in my palette here. Let's see, I have a couple different pinks, of course. I've always got lots of pinks in my palette. And I'm going to just start drawing in some berries. I don't even care if it mixes in with my green or spreads in with my green. That's perfectly fine. Just wetting my brush so I can get some different values. Touching in. Look how pretty that is. Isn't that pretty? Sometimes it really is worth it to go with less is more. Just these three colors, and look how pretty. Rinse my brush off. Rinse my brush again. Love the different values. I think that's always like a #1 priority for beginners. Learn how to play with your values. So you've got these light values, just meaning there's more water mixed into the ratio than paint, because that can really create a lot of interest in your paintings. And then I wash out some of that pigment and just go with like a very faint color. And it immediately creates this depth in there. So I'm about done here. If you're really good at calligraphy, I think this would be really pretty with, you know, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, whatever you might want to put. The last thing I want to do is just add in a couple darker leaves, meaning darker values. So I'm going to go in and pick up some more paint. Oop. Got that on my thumb. So this is probably going to be more like 80% pigment, 20% water, and I'll just go in and add a few little leaves with that color. So they're just a little bit darker. I might even add some dark green into that. And now here, I'm just using dabs, but look at how that really pops it out. Just really creates some fun interest there. And I'm about done. Nope. Just adding them in. There we go. All right. I think I'm about done here. This would be so pretty on a card. I wish I, you know, was better at calligraphy, because I would go in there right now and add in some little calligraphy here and there, but that kind of isn't my thing. Maybe even darken up some of that brown. I don't want to get too nitpicky here. Less is always more with watercolors. But I do love creating layers like that. I think it's really fun. And this side feels just a little bit thicker, so I might just add a couple more over here. Just to thicken that up a bit. Yeah, I think I like that a little bit better. Feels a little bit more even. Just tap in there. Check for any bare spots. Yeah, I like that thicker. Maybe even a little bit down here. And definitely overlap your leaves. There's nothing wrong with that. So up here might need just a little bit more. Just wherever you kind of visually see some empty spots, you could add them in. A little bit more here. Ooh, I love how watercolors does that, just blends together. So look at that thickness. I think that's really pretty. A little bit there. Okay, there you go. I hope you give this one a try. I will list my colors I used here, but I am using the MeiLang and number 8 round, although keep in mind that different manufacturers, their 8 rounds are going to be a little bit different. This happens to be my brush set. Like I said, I don't know if there's any more of those left, but that's my 8 round. And I think we are done. All right, happy painting, everybody.